Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. This is my weekly compendium of case reports between the 30th of December 2020 to the 4th of January 2021. Case file 17 to 21. Case file number 17. Written by user WolfieBlue333. A simple night out spent camping with his girlfriend, relaxing by their bonfire at night. It somehow moved before their very eyes. So onto the story. It's kinda short and kinda weird. Some months ago, my girlfriend and I went camping in a new spot that one of my friends told me about. It was beautiful and very secluded, which I liked. A typical camping trip, just staying there one night. We did the standard routine, arrived there, unpacked our stuff, then went exploring. It was so beautiful, really have the alone in the heart of the forest kind of vibe. Now to the weird stuff. We were around the bonfire eating dinner, grilled steaks and some potatoes for sides. When we finished, we started talking about life, stuff, etc., both looking towards the fire, when all of a sudden the fire moved. What I can compare it to is the animus glitch from the Assassin's Creed video game series. Like it sort of moves from left to right in a matter of seconds. We both looked at each other and instantly locked our eyes. At the same time, we tell each other, "Did you see that?" It was super weird and left us with a very confusing feeling. We tried to rationalize it, but didn't find any logical explanation, so we brushed it off as the smoke or some sort of eye illusion. Notes: I've been camping and hiking since my earliest memories, and never have I experienced anything like this. My girlfriend and I saw it at the same time, so it wasn't something that I could have experienced alone. Can you guys give me any insight into this? What could have happened? Case notes. File number 17. When you say the bonfire glitched out, similar to the animus effect in AC, did it look like a sort of redshift in its plane of existence? Also, did the bonfire return to its starting position after this event? Were there any disturbances noted around it if you checked? So I think we live in a simulation. Your experience is just contributing another token of evidence to my treasure trove. There are a lot of glitch types that could corroborate this too, such as time freezes, which I think points towards critical updates or patches of upcoming areas or timelines that just can't be postponed. I think we're playing immersive characters as part of this grand game. The author responded to my questions with, "Yes, it kinda shifted position. In a matter of seconds, it moved diagonally upwards to the left, then it came back to its normal position, sort of a reset. And no disturbances. After the shock passed, we investigated the place and it looked totally normal. We only got left a weird confused feeling. I only remembered this story because I was playing AC Valhalla, and some mysteries are these animus glitches, where you have to parkour around an obstacle course. But after seeing the movement of the environment, it reminded me so much of this experience. And yes, I agree with you. We live in a sort of accepted simulation that becomes our reality. A lot of these occurrences are like lifting the veil of reality." Continuing my thoughts. Not too much more to say here. It's a simple glitch, but I really do think it points to the simulation effect. It just fits in my mind. Case file number 18. Written by user Don't Send Me Butt Pics. Hey, it's their username. Writes about a skateboard suddenly, with multiple witnesses, vanishing, only to reappear later in an inexplicable location. Here's what happened last night that I still can't explain. So I was learning how to skateboard with two friends. My friend and I were about to skate down my street on our boards, which is slightly downhill. Then a homeless man walked up to us. We chatted briefly and he asked if we had any money. I said I didn't have cash, but that my roommate made a bunch of homeless bags that I could run into my house and grab one for him really quickly. At this point, I had one foot on the board and one foot on the ground. There was a snowbank right next to me, so I know I would have wedged the skateboard into the snowbank so it wouldn't have rolled down the hill. I was right next to it. It was the obvious choice. I was right across from my house, so I ran in and grabbed the bags, which were right next to the front door. This whole thing took about 20 seconds. I come out, give the homeless man the bags, and immediately look down and say, "Where's my board?" My friends looked confused and said they don't know. They just saw me on it. The homeless man also said he didn't see it. We thought maybe he took it, but it was a whole and complete skateboard, and he used both hands to open the bags and look through them. Plus, he was standing in front of my friends the whole time, nowhere to hide it. Also, it was 1 a.m. and dead outside. The only other thing that happened was that a car passed while I was inside, so they thought that maybe someone grabbed it real quick from the car and stole it. Highly unlikely. We looked around for 20 minutes. We looked down the street in case it rolled off and no one noticed, and we were stumped. I asked them a million times if they were screwing with me, and they sincerely promised they weren't, and were just as confused as me. It also was my friend's board, so he was concerned because it was expensive. I told them that it was probably a glitch in the Matrix, and that I wouldn't be surprised if it showed up today. Sure enough, my friend leaves this morning, calls me, and says, "I've closed the loop in the Matrix. I was walking to my car this morning up the road, and the skateboard was right next to the dumpster." The dumpster was a bit up the road, which is uphill, and we weren't anywhere near there during our conversation. I still have absolutely no idea how it got there, and without anybody noticing within 20 seconds of time. Case notes, file number 18. So let's examine the common solutions to this glitch. First, there's the obvious angle that your friends, or the homeless man, were distracted and missed the skateboard rolling down the street, having been somehow dislodged from the snowbank. This explanation doesn't work due to the skateboard appearing up the hill, against gravity. The second possibility. The homeless man managed to David Copperfield the skateboard right under your friend's noses and keep it concealed, only to later abandon it up the hill, and you stated that it was pricey, so this would make no sense at all. And third, your friends played a prank on you, although I don't really suspect this one either because they'd tell you to get your reaction. That's the whole point of pranking someone. So while this glitch does read as more ordinary, when you exhaust the logical explanations, it actually becomes quite extraordinary. Another example of material objects vanishing, though in your case, at least it came back to you. Case file number 19, written by user LiquidGold83, describes a night's events where they seemingly died, but then consciously woke back up 20 minutes before their death. So this happened last week. It just took me some time to come to terms with it, to process the mind-bending reality of existence. I got a phone call from my next door neighbor late in the evening, asking if I can help him move a mattress into his room upstairs. His mom is ill and has a big heavy sleep number bed. I, of course, ran over to help because they're great neighbors. I get over there and his friend, who's also a priest, was there to help. I helped them figure out how to separate the mattress from the bed so we could fit it upstairs. We get it all moved up and back in place when my neighbor asks if I can help them move an armoire upstairs too. I think nothing of it, and we pull it out of his travel trailer and start bringing it up the stairs of his house. This is where I died. The front stairs are 11 steps long. I was on the lower end of the armoire, about 6 steps up, when my neighbor and his friends lose a handle on the armoire and it comes crashing down on me, and I fall backwards towards the pavement. I then wake up in my dining room, to my phone ringing and my wife asking me if I'm going to answer the phone. It's my neighbor asking me if I can help move a bed upstairs for his mom. I go over there and meet his priest friend again, as this has been the first time I met him. I say I can help with the bed, but I can't help with the armoire. My neighbor was like, "How do you know about the armoire?" I then proceeded to tell them I'm pretty sure I just died. I spent the next hour talking with the priest. He had so many questions. My neighbor didn't believe it until I described the upstairs bedroom in perfect detail, down to the metal mattress frame on the floor and the intricate headboard leaning against the wall. I had never been upstairs in their house before. The priest asked me what I saw after I died. I told him I never actually died. Before it happened, I woke up at my dining room table 20 minutes before my death. Case notes, file number 19. Okay, so this is one of the most concise and clear examples I've ever come across regarding quantum immortality. It's curious though how you jump back in time 20 minutes prior to the incident. So usually in quantum immortality situations, the jump of consciousness into other universes, the U, is instantaneous and happens at the same point in time as the original, just without the death part. I suppose it's possible there were no other available yous in that exact moment, if that makes sense, until you took control of that version of you 20 minutes ago, and altered the future in the process because of your knowledge of events to come. So that universe was basically the same, minus some small changes, but you changed the outcome that would have come to pass if you wouldn't have died in your original timeline and universe. If this is possible, then it puts into question even the nature of time and its connection to consciousness. Perhaps quantum immortality could even extend beyond natural aging-related deaths, where dying in that instance simply reconnects you to an earlier version of yourself, to continue living forever in different versions or timelines in those parallel universes. The only thing about this, though, is there aren't a lot of people walking around who just think they came from other universes where they had died like an hour before of natural aging. I do know though, if this is a simulation, then maybe we get to choose in the real world if we want to continue the saved game or something like that, or just start a new playthrough. It's a fascinating thought. Case file number 20, written by user You Named Me Dog, describes an encounter with an older gentleman who clearly was interested in her romantically. She then met him again as his younger self. 4.5 years ago, I had a job selling cookies and fudge to tourists in my city. Occasionally, someone would come into the shop drunk to flirt with me, but not very often, as I was this awkward 20-year-old with bad acne and a terrible sense of humor. One memorable evening, a much older gentleman entered. I offered him a small sample of fudge as was required. He looked like he could have been in his mid-50s with the energy of a 30-year-old. He had a thin frame, thick white hair, a narrow face, and piercing eyes. It felt like he was hitting on me, and it was very confusing. He was older, flamboyant, and he wanted me to show him around. He asked me when I would get off work that night. I had neither the social skills nor the confidence to tell him to F off. I agreed to meet him after work and wondered if I was actually going to show him around town, if that meant something more than my innocent mind was willing to believe. Feeling kind of frightened and helpless, I told my male coworker what had just happened. He told me he would walk me to my car after work, so that I could tell the white-haired man never mind and leave easily. I didn't expect the white-haired man to be waiting for me outside several hours later, but he was. My coworker walked me out of the building, and as we hurried past, I looked at him and said, "Sorry, can't. I just can't." The man bowed his head low and nodded as if he fully understood. He seemed deeply disappointed. Fast forward a year later, I'm working at a new job in the same area. I had been working there for about a month when a new face entered the scene. They hired a young man with a thin frame, thick dark hair, a narrow face, and piercing eyes. This young man was flirtatious, intense, and just my type. He was fun and flamboyant, and we almost dated, but I had to put the brakes on it for personal reasons. I was deeply upset about it for a long time. He used to talk to me a lot, and he was the first person who had ever liked me back. I know logically that these are two different people, one older guy looking to have a good time, and one young man who I miss a lot. Sometimes I choose to believe in the time traveler story, Because if it could be true, it means that he misses me too. Case notes, file number 20. So do we exist in multiple timelines at the same time? Like past save points, but concurrently playing out. But anyways, traveling back in time is much harder, and if it is possible, you shouldn't be connecting with your own timeline. It should actually be a new timeline, or not a new one, just a separate one, similar to crossing over actually, but without the catalyst of death we're talking about. If we did invent a time machine, that should be how it works. This prevents all those nasty paradoxes. Somehow, this older man crossed over, maybe through a time machine, maybe just by happenstance, and then maybe your future lover was aware of his past self falling into heavy emotions with you. I dare not say love. Unlikely the future version was consciously aware of having met you in the current past future. Boy, timelines aren't simple, are they? So in a nutshell, I think if he was a time traveler, quote unquote, however you want to describe it, I don't think he was consciously aware of you, of having connected with you before. And maybe he didn't in his originating timeline, but you two are just really meant for each other, in a sense, just not at the right time for him. Of course, it very well may be simply a lookalike and just a coincidence, but it is fun to consider the possibilities that reach beyond linear time. Case file number 21, written by user GreenyBeanie16. On her drive home from work, without understanding how, she realizes she's in an alternate reality. I have to share this story. It's been bothering me for some time now. First, a little bit of background. I usually go to work right around 2 p.m. and get out around 8:30 p.m. I always take the same route to and from work. Also, I've been working at this particular store for about 6 months. Well, one day, about a month and a half ago, I started feeling weird while I was at work. Almost like I was there, my body was there, but my mind was somewhere else. It started about 2 hours before my shift ended. I thought, okay, kind of weird, but I was taking cold medicine at the time and figured it was just that messing with my head, until my drive home. On this particular night, I got out of work a little late. My district manager came in because he had to unplug and shut down everything in the store so the city could do some kind of energy something something. I don't remember the details. I just know that if we didn't unplug everything, our crap would get fried. So I'm driving home about 20 minutes later than usual, and my anxiety starts building to the point where I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, and the feeling of being there but not there starts to get worse. That's when I see it. As I said before, I take precisely the same route every single day, to and from work. But as I went down the road, I looked to my left and saw this big semiconductor plant, all lit up, that had never frickin' been there before. This isn't a location you can just forget or miss while passing by it. I pulled over on the side of the road, freaking the F out. I know for a fact it had never been there before, and it's really hard to miss. Driving home in complete darkness with a huge lit up power plant. You didn't even have to look for it, couldn't miss it. I sat there for a minute until I had calmed down a bit, trying to reassure myself it had always been there. I just wasn't paying attention. I'm not going crazy, I probably just hadn't seen it before. A few minutes later, my boyfriend called me and asked if I could pick up some McDonald's for him. Sure, not a problem. I passed by one on the drive home. The feeling of anxiety and not being there started to fade, until I pulled into the drive-thru, ordered my food, and then a worker I had never seen before was sitting at the front window. I asked him how long he'd been working there. He said, "About 2 months now." Now I'm truly freaking out. I've come to this place every single day for months, at varying times throughout the day. Even weirder yet, he was the only worker there that night. I'm sure there's an explanation for that part, but it sure didn't help me feel any better after discovering a new power plant that just popped up out of nowhere about 20 minutes earlier. I proceeded to go home and have a full-blown panic attack, curled into a ball, shaking, crying, hyperventilating, the whole deal. I told my boyfriend about the power plant I'd seen, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's always been there. Have you not seen it before?" And now, every day, I look at that damn place and freak out a little bit, because I know it was never there before. Since then, I've noticed tiny little details about my life that are just slightly different, like my dog not knowing tricks she's known since she was a pup, or my boyfriend pronounces a few words differently than he did before. The only explanation that I can come up with is that I accidentally slipped into an alternate reality while on my drive home from work. Case Notes, File Number 21. I'll say this does feel like a textbook quantum immortality case to me. I wonder though, since you said you were feeling off while at work, but at this point presumably still in your own reality, that you said you were taking medication for a cold. Maybe somehow that cold was more severe than you thought and led to your death in the originating reality. Maybe it was more than a cold. And then by the time you went home, your consciousness had already crossed over. So in that case, it wouldn't be the drive that caused it. Everything does fit with this theory. As you described, there are many other details that are off, like your dog not remembering tricks she's always known since a pup. Your boyfriend telling you that the power plant you witnessed has always been there. That's just impossible. Like you said, there's no way you could have missed it. Not even once, especially since you drive there every single day. Well, yeah, I fully concur that you are in a new reality. There's no doubt about that. The truly interesting question for me is always what the catalyst is for the crossover. Since, to be fair, the explanation of dying from a cold is rather tenuous at best, I'll admit. But I don't know, what else could have happened? Maybe you somehow died in a car crash on the drive home? But the thing is, usually people remember what their death is. Maybe we don't always remember what our death is. I wonder what affects that or plays with that. Interesting. And that concludes our case file for the night. If you enjoyed the stories and my narration of them, then consider leaving a like and also subscribing. I upload Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. EST with more case files all the time. I'll see you there.